Hello and welcome. My name is Sydney Nowak. I am a senior Slate communication strategist here at Carnegie on our Slate optimization team. And I'm excited to be joining you today for our Slate demo series on using dynamic content blocks to communicate FAFSA dates. We know this year the FAFSA is changing and it's launching a little bit later than we're used to. And we don't know yet a specific date around that, but we still want to communicate that important step to students. And so using content blocks, we're going to be able to communicate to them that correct step when it's the correct time. So during this demo, we are going to be skipping a lot of the initial steps for creating the deliver email and a query and configurable joins. We do have some great past webinars on that I encourage you to check out if you would like more information on those steps. And we'll be spending most of our time in the content block configuration use. So jumping right in, starting in our deliver module, we're going to first create our new mailing. So after we create our new mailing, we then want to edit our recipient list. Before we do anything, we need to bring in the proper exports that we need to create our content blocks. So I started with a configurable joins person base here. We're going to be creating the copy of an email for a senior inquiry. You can use whatever population makes sense to you there. For my exports, I know in my email, I'm going to need the preferred name and the email. And for my content blocks, I am going to be using the system current date to build the content blocks. So that needs to come in as an export. And I'm also going to have an existence export. I want to add an extra statement in one of my content blocks for in-state students before March 1st. So for Carnegie University, our in-state is going to be Massachusetts today. And our in-state aid deadline is going to be March 1st. So I only want these students to get this extra message if they're in Massachusetts and if it's before March 1st. So I have those two filters here. We'll then go back to our Deliver main page, and on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see a link to content blocks. Once we're in content blocks, we want to create a new key. You can name your key whatever you'd like. I chose FAFSA_info. It's what makes the most sense for my email here today, but you can name that however you like. You can also folder this. And for the type of content block that we're doing today, we want to choose date, parentheses, inclusive range of values. And this is where that system current date field comes into play. Once I've created my key, we then have the opportunity to create new codes. I'll be working with two codes today. The first code is going to be set between the dates of the creation of this content block and the last date that I would like students to get this particular message. So I chose 8/17 as my minimum value, and for the maximum value, December 31st. This message is going to be file your FAFSA once the application opens later this year. And we're going to talk about at the end what happens if the application for the FAFSA opens on December 1st or December 15th. We can definitely make those adjustments. But here I'm going to go with what we believe is the last possible date that the FAFSA may open. For my second code, it's going to pick up the day after the prior code ends, so January 1st, 24. My maximum value I set as the date I know my campaign is going to end. So this email will no longer send after June 30th. So I set my maximum value as June 30th, 24. And this message reads, you can file your FAFSA at studentaid.gov now. I also have an extra message in here for that existence export. Massachusetts students before March 1st. Filed by March 1st to be considered for all eligible state-based aid. Putting this into our email, going back into our email in the WYSIWYG editor, We're going to configure all of our copy here. I've brought in my person preferred name exports, and then I have my checklist here for these inquiry students. Apply to Carnegie University, send your transcript, the FAFSA information, and then visiting campus. To input your content block, we have 2 of our curly brackets, and this is where I bring in that export of current date. And then for the snippet, in between the parentheses, we are going to have our key. So FAFSA_info is what I named my key. So I put that in here, and we close it all with our curly brackets. Looking at this in action, this is before December 31st. We can see students are going to get our message of file your FAFSA once the application opens later this year. If we're looking at what this might look like later in the cycle, after December 31st for out-of-state residents, they're going to see you can file your FAFSA at studentaid.gov now. For our in-state residents, they're going to see that, plus that extra message about the in-state deadline, filed by March 1st to be considered for all eligible state-based aid. And then after March 31st, that second message is going to fall off for those in-state students, and they're just going to get that first statement along with our out-of-state students to go file the FAFSA. So you may be asking, what happens if the FAFSA opens earlier? We hope it opens earlier. So what we can do is change our dates on our content blocks. You can update content blocks without stopping your email, which is one of the beautiful things about using content blocks. Our email can continue to run, and once we know that open date of FAFSA, we can go and make changes here to our maximum and minimum values. In our first code, we'll want to update our maximum value to reflect the day before the FAFSA opens. So if we know it's going to open on December 15th, we would change December 31st to December 14th. We would then go to our second code, and we would change the minimum value from January 1st to December 15th, 2023. And that's all we need to do. We just save that, and that is going to trigger those messages to stop and start on those dates. And it really, truly is that easy. So I'm so excited to use this year to help communicate these important deadlines and actions to students whenever the time is right. And thank you all so much for joining us today. Again, my name is Sydney Nowak. If you'd like to get in touch, my email is snowak@carnegiehighered.com, or you can reach out to us via our web form at carnegiehighered.com. We look forward to hearing from you soon.